it is the outcome that we all celebrating in. I think it could easily have gone the other way. The Springboks made a lot of mistakes as well. And it's mistakes that they can clean up on if they want to go all the way. But those kind of mistakes, it's not going to serve them well in this knockout part of the game. So they need to tidy up. Somebody writes, Clarence, you see the French coach and captain criticized the referee and his decisions. Will they be sanctioned like Rassie was? And I see the post-press conference with Sia and Jacques. The same question was asked by, I think it was a French reporter. The accent was clear. If they felt that the ref was a little bad in his decision making, and I think they were magnanimous in their particular response. And I'm not quite certain. I don't know the rules sufficiently to be able to announce on that, but I'm sure John Goliath is the sports editor at IOL. He joins us on the line. And Jan de Koning, are you there?
I am indeed, thank you.
Okay, miskien moet ons met jou begin, Jan. I heard you coming through as well in that press conference. The French guy was suggesting the referee was a bitchy scallum.
Yeah, I think emotions run quite high. Firstly, thank you very much for having me on the show. What a blessed and wonderful morning to be awake and celebrating another good day. But I think, yeah, emotions went very high, understandably, and I think the coach was far more reserved in his responses. You know, he doesn't want to blame the referee. I think he was far more, like I say, reserved. But Dupont was obviously emotional, and he seemed to think that some of those calls could have gone their way, and every team that loses will think so. I think Rassie and Sia were very magnanimous, and they just said the communication from the referee was very clear. So like the FOF pass that went to the French player, he explained to him very clearly why it's not a penalty, and they just went on with the game. I think the big difference with the Springbok team is that they've learned to get the referees on their side. In the past, remember, we were always on the wrong side of the calls, and we were the guys bleating about bad calls. We've learned to accept it, and we've learned to win the referees over. And now the calls are going, those 50-50 calls are going our way.
Okay, that is Jan de Koning of Rugby 365. Of course, John Goliath is on the line there now from IOL. I was suggesting that the Springboks made a lot of mistakes last night, and it could have gone the other way because of those mistakes. John?
Yeah, what's scary, Clarence, is that the Springboks are only firing at about 70% still throughout this tournament. Seems like they've been in third gear. But because of the experience they have in this team, I mean, the pack, none of the pack had less than 60 caps, and there's a lot of experience in the backline as well. They know how to pull it through in these tight games, in these knockout situations. I mean, it was a cauldron last night. The crowd was booing at every decision. It was hostile, but these South Africans, they kept calm. And that's what they do best. I mean, they had 2 weeks to prepare for this match. They even prepared with loudspeakers in the training ground to sort of mimic the atmosphere. Obviously, you can never mimic 80,000 people screaming and shouting and booing, but they did their homework. And at the end, it's those small margins which saw us go through to the semi-final.
Yeah, let's go back to Jan de Koning. That BMT, that big match temperament, did come through in the last part of the game. Ultimately, it was the experience that counted and that took them over the line finally. Would you agree with that, Jan?
Yes, certainly. I will agree with. And also the speakers, you're right, they can't mimic the sound, but what the idea behind it is, and Sia and Jacques has explained this last week, is more to get us to focus on the rugby rather than the external noises. So they were playing all sorts of singing and different things, and what they want to do is get the guys to focus on the rugby and not get distracted by external noises. And that was the important thing, and that's where that experience comes from. They were comfortable with the noises, the booing, and all that sort of stuff. They could focus on their rugby, and that's what you saw. The defense right at the end, to the last minute, ripping the ball, guys like Faf running and jumping on people's backs, and it's just amazing. I must admit, being there, you can't explain to people the atmosphere, the hum in that stadium. when you live and then when you're there, as opposed to seeing it on TV. It's two different entirely experiences.
Yeah. The two defining matches of the game, moments of the game that probably made it go our way, would you say it was that long kick from Pollard and that was that wonderful little storm down on that kick by, what's his name again? Joe, don't you know these things?
Colby.
Colby, yes, of course. Were those the defining moments?
I would say I'll share something with you. It's one of those memes. There's plenty of these memes going on at the moment. They say Cheslin Kolbe so fast he even answers a missed call.
I'm going to use that one. Don't tell anybody I stole it. Okay. So you say those are the two defining moments?
Yeah, I think definitely the Cheslin Kolbe thing. And I'm going to do something else, which Sia said. He said for him, the defining thing of this win is the players who didn't play. They spent the entire last week. They knew they weren't playing. They spent the entire last week mimicking the French. So they were acting as they were the French. So the Springboks have got this thing where the non-playing squad becomes the opposition, and they mimic and they know they've got a playbook on every team. And that team, so Marvin Orie and all these guys, Marvin usually runs that team. And they had a massive role in preparing the Boks. That's why the Boks knew what was going on. They knew about those little chip kicks. 1 or 2 might have worked, but they knew exactly what was coming. And it's because they were prepared by the non-playing squad. And Sia gave a lot of credit to the non-playing squad.
And their defenses were left wanting. I think if it wasn't, again, Cheslin Kolbe just getting to the ball before the opponent, behind the line, behind the poles, it could have been very, very different. But let's go back to John Goliath. You're saying they've been performing at 70% of their game. That's not going to make them world champs, John.
No, but they're building up the crescendo as far as I'm concerned, Clarence. I think that the Boks have only gotten better going throughout this tournament. And I think if you look back to November last year, where I think they should have beaten France in France as well as Ireland. They had moments there, bounce of the ball and some refereeing calls. So they've been building up from those two games were basically going to be their big games, going into trying to make the semi-finals, and they came through both of them basically unscathed now, and now they can look forward to an England team which they should beat. But obviously, as Jan said, they are so meticulous in their planning. They won't underestimate England, and they will be going at that England team in terms of preparation with the same intensity. And I think we will see a much better performance, because if this Boks team clicks and the passes go to hand. I mean, we scored about four tries, if I'm not mistaken, last night in a World Cup semi-final against a French team that has been really stingy.
I hear you, John. So you're expecting them
actually get better.
John, you are expecting them. They have to step up their game. At 70%, they're not going to win this World Cup. That's my question, or my suggestion.
No, for sure, especially if there's a possible final against the All Blacks.